Hi, I'm Christy Simpson and welcome to Ask Christy. Today's question is, how do you choose solos, special parts, when everyone wants a solo? And I wanted to tie this into a question I got when I was in a conference in Washington State this last week. And a choir assistant, she wasn't the main director, she came up and asked me and she said, the choir director always chooses her own kids for all of the parts. What do we do about that? How can I talk to her about it? Can I do something? And everybody gets bitter about it because she doesn't even give anyone else a chance, which this is common, obviously. It's a big passion of mine to not do that, but it's obviously common. I'm sure you all know of people that do that. You might even do that yourself. And I want to tell you, I understand why we do that. We do that because it's easier to rely on people that you can count on, which is fine. And you want to have a great show. So sometimes when you're listening to a project, you're like, oh gosh, I know exactly who should be the leads on this for sure. And that's normal because, we all think that. I think that when I'm writing my musicals, I think of people in my own choir. And that's normal. However, I do believe we should fight that. We should fight the inclination to always give the same kids the same roles. Or the same big parts, because that, number one, it undermines the body of Christ, where everyone is important. If we tell our kids they're all important, but we seem to value the same 4 kids over and over again, particularly if you put those lead drama characters and they don't even have to be in the choir songs, they kind of just stand to the side. That's, I think, a really bad example of how we all play a part together. I think it's really important to put those super talented kids in roles that are less prominent so that they can learn to serve and build up the body. Super, super important. So I do that with my own choir. I tell them sometimes it's your turn, sometimes it's not. I have to fight against putting my 2 boys in the best parts, and it's hard because boys aren't always very prominent. I mean, in your choir, there's not too many, so it's like, oh, I want to use my kids, but I also want to give other kids a chance. And it is harder because I might give a part to somebody who's not as good, but it's cool because then you get to raise them up. And that is just amazing to see the transformation that God brings. So in answer to her question, I said, I don't really know how to do that except for to pray, because we might get offended if somebody came up to us and said, why are you picking the same people? I would be offended, of course. So it's best to just pray for that director, and let's not be the directors that always just picks 4 people because it's easy for us. We want to make sure we reach out to everybody, even if it's more challenging and more work, which it totally is. And maybe your program might not be quite as good, but I think the eternal value will be greater in the end. So I know that's a challenge for all of us, and I just challenge you all to keep going for that, to spreading out the parts, to letting talented people serve in other areas so they don't get big heads, and so we all really understand what it's like to serve in the kingdom. So I'll see you guys next week, and keep those questions coming.